Hello, hello. Just get live on Instagram. Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for being here. If you're watching a replay, let me know by putting hashtag replay. Today we are talking about the hidden curriculum behind dissertations. Um, I am Dr. Lacey. If you don't know who I am, it's been a while since I went live, y'all. But I'm Dr. Lacey. I work with doctoral students to finish their dissertations in 12 months or less by following a very simple 10-hour weekly routine. Today, we're talking about hidden curriculum because I want to go back to my first year, first semester. Many of you have probably already heard me say this story before, but I ended my first year, first semester on academic probation. But I want to talk about two instances as to I would say is the big part of that led to that. Number one, I was a first year or first what do you call it? First generation student. Period. No one in my immediate family and even extended family has ever gone to get a PhD. And I decided for my last, hoorah of a degree, I would go to a research one institution in the SEC. And I was really like a fish out of water, y'all. I had no idea. I was in a strange place that I knew no one, but it was just all overwhelming. But I thought it's school, it's classes. This wasn't the first time I had to do this. So I did all the things that I thought would make me the perfect student. I got all my planners, I got all my books. I was ready to go. But getting into my first PhD classes, I was so not prepared. I was so overwhelmed. I am used to getting a syllabus and doing the reading and taking notes during class lectures and being ready to answer whatever question is about the material. But I quickly realized that in this PhD program, that's not what was happening. Like we were rarely getting to the actual material and it was just general conversation. And as a huge introvert and just someone who likes to watch before they jump in, that was completely overwhelming. I did not know how to do it. And I didn't know what we were talking about. There was no structure to the conversation. And so I would do the reading every week. I would spend hours taking notes and be like, this is the week I'm gonna speak up. But that week never came because I was just so dysregulated. So we get to the middle of the semester. And in one class, I still haven't even gotten a syllabus. So I don't even know what's going on. I'm just showing up every week and hopefully she tells us the assignment, but it's confusing. And we have a paper that is coming up that is worth majority of our grade. But again, we don't even have a syllabus. I don't have a rubric. I don't have no understanding of what this assignment is. I turn it in. And it was one of those situations where you turn it in, get feedback, so you incorporate it in the final paper. We turn it in, but we still don't even get this paper back until probably the week before the semester ends. But I'm gonna come back to that story. The second thing that happened is in my like cohort only course, the person who was leading that class was like, and by age wise, the oldest faculty and one of the most senior faculty of the program. And I had a paper that I just couldn't write. I started it months before. I tried to do all the reading. I tried to take all the notes, but every time I would sit down to write, I would just freeze. And so I just turned in a half-written paper because I needed to turn in something. And he called me into his office and pretty much told me that they made a mistake of letting me into the PhD program and that I wasn't really I just wasn't meeting any expectations. But I'm over here like, you didn't tell me any clear expectations. I come to class, I do the reading, I took the notes, but he was just like, yeah, you just don't seem to engage and you don't seem to care about what anyone else is saying. Y'all, it was so heartbreaking. Like I was just sobbing. Sobbing is not the word, but I was sobbing because I was like, clearly school is not made for me. I'm not meant to do this because I've always known myself to be a smart student and I am struggling. And then that semester ended with, we go back to that class about not getting the syllabus. I get the paper back and she's like, yeah, this paper just doesn't meet my expectations. Like, and every faculty at this point that I'm interacting with is like, have you heard of the Writing Center? Like, clearly you need some more help because you're just such a bad writer. She ends up failing me on this paper, even though she's like, I know I didn't give you the syllabus and I know it took too long to give you the grade back, but this is just piss poor work. I mean, those were not her words, but you get the thing. And so I got 2 C's. And if you are aware that in graduate school, especially in doctoral programs, C's are like failing. So I get these 2 C's. And I got a letter from the graduate school that says you are now on academic probation. And that crashed everything I knew because in my brain, I was doing everything right. I showed up to every class. I did every assignment. I was writing. I was going to the writing center every week. Like I had a standing appointment at the writing center, and everything I knew to do just wasn't working. And I felt very frustrated because when I would ask people for help, all they would tell me is, well, you're just not working hard enough. You're just not spending enough time. You're just not doing enough. I'm like, I am single, childless. All I do is sit in my room in my apartment that I share with roommates and read and write. I don't know how much more I could do. And this was my very first lesson. And the whole topic of today's live is that there is a hidden curriculum that you are expected to know and to follow, not only in doctoral programs, but especially in dissertation processes, that people are just not being clear. And at any time you're hearing this, if you have questions, please let me know. I'd be happy to answer questions either about my story or about what's going on with you. But people don't clearly tell you the expectations. They just expect that you should know. And how would you know if no one has ever told you? What in those conversations that I had with those two particular faculty, that they also kept saying, like, we don't see you at, the tailgate, or we don't see you at this event that we had, and we don't see you like talking to this faculty or doing this. And I'm like, I'm just trying to keep up with classes and move to a new place. Nobody told me I needed to go to all these things. I don't like people. This is too many people. But for them, they had formed an opinion of me of not only my in-classroom experience, but what I didn't know is that I was also being judged based off my outside of the classroom experience, how much I was showing people how eager I was or performing excitement in the program. And I thought this was just me, but after working with doctoral students for the past 9 years, helping thousands of students get to graduation, it's not just me. And it's not just because of being first gen. It's because in general, the culture of higher education is one of, you got to get it how I got it. Pretty much like you got to go through the same hardships and hazing that I went through. And then nobody told me, so I'm not telling you. And listen, I can go on a rant about higher education for days. That's a whole different live. But what I will say here is, in many ways, people wear as a badge of honor, as like a form of achievement, that they made it through all the hazing loops and hoops that higher ed can put you through. And they think that that is rigor. They think that's what it means for an academic program or an institution to be rigorous. Is that how many invisible hoops can we put in your path and see how many you figure out, right? In the dissertation process, most people, that's when they first notice that there is a stark hidden curriculum. Like if you're not a first gen student or you were very supported coming in through coursework, you might not even notice that there's a hidden curriculum. You might like, oh, they're just a little bit disorganized, or, oh, I got to ask about a few things, but that's not a big deal. It's not until you get into the dissertation process where you're like, oh, no, they don't. Maybe they don't know what they're doing. Like there's nothing on paper. Now, I do want to name that there are some programs who they do have very clear and structured and organized program manuals, especially around expectations of the dissertation. I more so see this with for-profit institutions, but there are some nonprofit, depending on the program, right? This is me speaking very generally. And some programs even have dissertation courses. Most of those courses are like, just show up and we gonna write together. But there are a few courses in programs where they do guide you through the dissertation, mostly the proposal part, because they want to make sure that students are getting there. But majority of it is people feeling like, no, you got to figure it out. And so they might be very silent, like they just don't talk to you, or they don't even tell you like, hey, this form is due, or you should go talk to such and such before you can do, sit for your exams, or whatever the thing is. You may notice it when you go to give, like you're very excited about your dissertation topic ideas, and you go to meet with your chair and you're like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this. And they just look at you. They don't really say anything. They're just like, well, I'm excited to see something. And you're like, no, but that was the whole point of having this conversation with you, because I thought you were going to help me choose. And they're like, no. Or it could be, maybe you do like get further along, you have a topic and you submit maybe your first draft of your literature review. And they're just like, keep on writing. Like my very first advisor, her feedback system was you either got a check or a check plus. But that was the extent of the feedback. Like I remember giving her an entire literature review, and it was just like check APA. That was it. I was supposed to know that that meant good start, but you really need to focus on your APA and send me something else. But it was never explicitly said. And that might not be your exact situation, but that's what I see as a theme going throughout this process. Let me check my notes to make sure I didn't skip anything. Really, hidden curriculum is the unspoken, unclear, and informal expectations that your instructors, overall program, overall institutions have of you. And you're like you need to meet them in order to get to graduation. So I work with students inside of the Finish Your Dissertation Institute, and there's are a few things that I tell them to do in order to recognize and navigate the hidden curriculum. Number one, you have to get comfortable with feeling like you're being annoying. I want to start there. You're not being annoying, but if you are someone who is not used to um, being direct, being almost forceful, being focusing more on being clear, then it may feel like you're being annoying to your chair, to your advisor, to anyone that you're um, interacting with. So when I say be comfortable, it means you're going to have to ask some questions. You're going to have to do some communications. I'm going to explain these things, but it does require you to say, me getting to graduation is more important than me being misunderstood as being annoying or being too direct or being too like to bringing too much tension. Like I rather people see me as annoying if that means I'm going to get to the graduation stage. That means I rather people think that, oh, I'm too whatever. If that means I'm doctor. And for some of you, you really have to make that decision. Like I just told you about my first year, but as I got to the end, and we can talk about that later, I had to be very intentional and very clear with myself. I'd rather look like ridiculous or whatever they think of me if that means I'm going to be doctor. So that's number one. Number two, you need to meet with your chair either on Zoom or face to face at least once a month. They need to see you. They need to put eyes on you at least once a month. This don't have to be a long meeting, but this is more about the strategy of you see me because top of mind means you're not going to forget about me. What you want to do at this meeting, and this is a great time because we are at the beginning of the year. In January, I don't care what type of relationship you do have with your chair. What I want you to do is meet with them. And you need to ask them, hey, what's going on for you in 2026? Hey, are there any dates where you are going on vacation? You're going to be off a contract. You're going to be in a heavy conference season that I need to know about. And what do you have in terms of general expectations for me? Where do you see me going this year? You want to ask them those questions because you want them to, number one, to think about it, but also number two, so that they can be clear with you. The second thing you want to talk about in this January meeting is you want to be clear of this is what I will do in 2026. Do you hear my language? This is what I will do. So if that means I will finish this dissertation by May, or I will finish it by December, I will do my proposal by July, I will sit for exams in August. I need you to sit down and be very clear about what you will do. Not, oh, I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to see what March is looking like. And then I'm going to decide, or I'm going to see how far I get in April. If you're going to see, it ain't going to happen. You have to make a decision in the beginning of this is what I will do. Because when you go into this year with that attitude, your brain will catch up and you will do the work necessary to get there. But if your thought process is, well, I'm gonna just see what happens, nothing really is gonna happen. You might make a little bit of progress, but you're not gonna meet the goal that you're secretly like harboring in your heart. So you need to tell them. Now, this isn't that you're going to tell them because you want them to agree with you. Most likely, especially if you're rocking with me, when you tell them, hey, I'm going to graduate in May, they're probably going to be like, no, that's too fast. We don't care if they agree. We don't care if they think it's possible. We don't care if they think you're being realistic. What the point here is you're articulating, this is what I will, this is what I'm going to do. And because you're operating in the attitude of like, I'm willing to be misunderstood, you let them have whatever doubts or things that they want to say of like, well, we'll see. Your only job is to be like, okay. The next thing you want to know, if you've never asked your chair or your advisor this question, is like, what do you expect when you are reviewing writing for feedback? Not everyone is looking for the same things when they are looking at your work for feedback. Some people, like my first advisor, really care about, did you follow the rules of the style of whatever you're using, right? So because coming out of education, I use APA. And if you're curious, I think somebody asked me, my PhD is in college student administration. No, college student affairs administration. Y'all, it's been a long day. And that just means it's a mix of education, psychology, and anthropology, but I am really good at understanding developmentally what do students need and what type of environment do they need in order to learn and have academic success. But yeah, so the style we use is APA. So somebody might just care about that and they might not even look at what citations you use, how clear your ideas are. You may give it to another person and they really care about the examples you're using or how explicit your writing is. You may give it to your homegirl and she just really likes finding commas that are out of place, or she just likes the mechanics of grammar. Not everyone is going to be looking at the same thing. So if you give them something and you say, oh, can you just look at this for me? What does that mean? You're not giving them any direction. So when you ask your chair, your advisor, what are your expectations, you get an understanding of what they care most about and what they're looking for. If they try to tell you things like, well, I just want to see a finished draft, I want to see a complete draft, what does that mean? We're going to define our terms, because what a complete draft is to one person is not the same thing for the other person. And this is about, okay, you got to be a little bit more annoying. No, tell me what that looks like. If they still can't articulate it, you can also ask them to give you either an article or dissertation that best met their expectations. Or you could tell them, is there a class or paper or a past paper of mine, if they taught you before, where you say, okay, that is the type of quality of paper I am looking for in order to give you feedback. You can also ask them sub questions of, what type of feedback do you like giving best? What are your strengths? What type of feedback should I ask other people about? You will be surprised where this conversation goes, because I am someone who had a chair who's like, I don't care what you give me, just give me something. I one time gave her the lyrics to Lemonade. Okay, what it might have been, Don't Hurt Yourself. I was on one, y'all. It's a whole different story. I gave her actual lyrics mixed with like things I was writing in my literature review, but she said she was gonna look at anything, so I gave her anything. Whereas, right, my first advisor would have just told me to get out her face so quick if I would have ever given her anything like that. So you want to be very clear what your chair is looking for, and that'll save a lot of you some like heartbreak when you turn in some drafts. With that being said, in Finish Your Dissertation, I ask students that at a minimum, you are writing 10 pages a month and you are submitting those pages to your chair for feedback. It doesn't matter if you think the 10 pages are good enough or you think the 10 pages are ready. Your job is just to turn it in. Why? Because we are saying, hey, I am here. I am actively working on this dissertation process, and I'm going to get to graduation. I'm going to let my actions speak for what I said I would do this year. So let me, and the last thing I want to say is, anytime that you are communicating with your chair or faculty in general, follow that up by email. Follow it up with some sort of paper trail. Now, I don't think you're going to be writing things on a piece of paper and turn it in. I wouldn't do that either because it's not really that secure, but my point is, follow it up in email, even if it's like, oh, I'm just so glad I saw you a couple of days and we talked about my literature review. I just want to follow up and say, I'll have that to you by Friday, like we discussed. Thank you. You just need a paper trail. So let me go over this. You need to meet with your chair and you need to get very clear on who they are, what they expect from you, and what you can expect from them. You need to meet with them once a month and work your way up to emailing them once a week so that they can know just what's going on with you. You want to ask every question possible, be annoying, get clarity, define terms, making sure you're so crystal clear and you're on the same page, and making sure everything is follow up via email. Why would you need to go in such follow these rules? Is because I can't tell you the number of students I have worked with who have found themselves either on the other side of they need an extension and maybe it didn't get approved, or they're waiting for approval, their chair just not reaching out or like not wanting to move forward, but some sort of like you're at risk or jeopardy of not finishing the program due to just timelines or lack of cooperation. You're going to want a paper trail. You're going to want, because the first thing that the graduate school or even the program coordinator is going to ask you is, what did you do? How much did you follow up? How many questions did you ask? The onus is always going to be put on the student. This is the main thing when it comes to the hidden curriculum. It's always going to be put on you of what did you do and what did you not do. And if you have a paper trail because you've been emailing every week, because you submitted documents every month and they didn't do their part, we don't got nothing to talk about. Like, you need to go get your homeboy over there who not doing their job. Leave me out of it. But I cannot tell you how many times I've seen students, they don't have anything, or they just said, well, it wasn't ready. And so what it looks like from an administrative point of view is that you were not doing what you needed to do in the dissertation process or the doctoral process, so they don't need to hold the faculty accountable. When you have a paper trail, it just helps everything. Okay. So let me go back up here because that was the most of what I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to see if there are any questions. Okay. Awful, it's their job to ensure you have all the information and regular one-on-one checkups. What uni is this? I went to University of Georgia. And I would say it's not just unique to the university I went to. I just see this so much. And I want to say, I think this is babies don't drink tea. You said it's their job to ensure you have all the information. And I want to tell you a hard truth that this is also a part of the hidden curriculum. People don't tell you it's not their job. It's not their job to make sure you have the information. It's not their job to meet with you every week. It's not in their job description. I mean, if you want to, for funsies, depending on the type of institution you go to here in Georgia, we got open records. You can go look at somebody's job description. It's not in there. In general, it just says advise students, but nowhere in there do I have to meet with you a certain amount of time or a certain cadence or give you any information. The only job of the faculty, and especially of your dissertation chair, is to say yay or nay in terms of, are you doing this research part right? They're not there to give you feedback. They're not there to meet with you. If they're doing those things, they're doing it out the kindness of their heart. Now, I know babies don't drink tea, like you were in there with me, and this is not shade towards you. I want to be clear of, no, I fully do understand faculty jobs, and I'm also making very clear why a conversation like this is needed, because it's not their job, because that is the system of higher education. It was designed how it's designed. It's designed to haze you, designed to confuse you. Are there better institutions and programs and faculty than others? Absolutely, but it's not their job. If someone is giving you, like I said, feedback, or they're meeting with you, or they're giving you any sense of encouragement, it really is out of the kindness of their heart, or maybe it's something else, but they're not required to. And that's a real hard pill to swallow. But we can have a whole conversation about just the history of higher ed and academic programs. Navigating this experience of not knowing all the things but expected to do them. Yes, which is why I'm like, be in their face. Meet with them. I don't care if it's 10 minutes, email them. Okay, I have, and Chris, I don't know if you're still on here, but Chris, who's inside and finished your dissertation, we have been working on, no, just tell your committee, this is when you're graduating, tell them. So last year, it was like, tell them by December, they're going to have a full dissertation. And his committee kept being like, no, that's too soon, that's too quick, you won't. And I said, we don't care if they agree, just keep going. And every month, y'all, as Chris was turning in drafts or emailing the committee to be like, I collected data, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm going to this conference, I got this paper, I'm doing that, all the way up to the very end of December was when they were like, oh, you're serious. Okay, let me give you feedback. But they were not really giving feedback. They were not really giving encouragement. Of course, like they would meet here and there, but it was really much like, you got so much time. Why are you so worried? And Chris kept saying, because I told you I would be done by December. That's the type of work we do in FYD, because we don't need a committee to be like on the same page with you or agree with you. You need to understand what the process is of the technical dissertation process, along with the hidden curriculum and how to navigate it, and to know that you could trust yourself to do what you said you were going to do, which was graduate by whatever date you said you were going to graduate. And that is what Chris did. And Chris did turn in an entire dissertation. Now there's some edits and some things to go back and forth before the defense, but Chris is proof that you don't need your committee to be like gung-ho about your goal. Okay. Dr. Lacey, I'm now in data analysis and writing, been out in the field for past 16 months. I met my chair and all I got was analyze the data, archival data and interviews, and send me the updated proposal. So, okay, I'm gonna come back to that. Here's the other part, y'all, in terms of why your advisor or your chair may say, don't send anything to me until it's a completed draft. What I have found is that usually the student has the love of ideas. This was me at the beginning of my dissertation. I was like, I could do this, but what? And like writing entire proposals and being like, what'd you think about it? And I still couldn't decide until my chair was like, girl, do not send me nothing else until it's the final one. I see that a lot. I see that they are uncomfortable with your topic for whatever reason. Maybe it's not their research area. Maybe you are doing qualitative and they do quantitative. Maybe you are doing like an emerging design and they're just not comfortable. So they just say like, just send me the full thing because I can edit a paper even though I don't understand what it is that you're doing. That's usually a big one too, that students don't realize. Like, you think that y'all do similar research, but from the perspective of the faculty, they do not see the similarities, or that y'all approach it the same way. And then just some people who just don't care because they also are living through this life for the first time, and they also probably have a slew of problems, and they may be overwhelmed and they just may not have much to give you, but to save face and to save their job, they don't outwardly tell you that. So do you have advice on how I can navigate the dissertation and data analysis? What I will say is, number one, what is I don't know if you're doing qualitative, quantitative, or mixed methods. I'm going to talk about this as if you're doing qualitative. It's just what I'm assuming. So if you have a theoretical or a conceptual framework, I would say go back to that. Reacquaint yourself with what theory or theories did you say were guiding your understanding of this project. Y'all, this is where I get on my soapbox, because many people think that a theoretical or a conceptual framework is just for a checkbox that you just put in because it's there. No, it's a tool. We need to use it, and mainly using it in the analysis process. So go back and really review what were the major buckets, if you will, of that framework. I will use me as an example. So a framework that I used was Black feminist thought, and how I framed it for myself was into 4 things. Number one, if you lived it, it's real. Lived experience is real. Number 2, how you come to understand or make meaning of that experience is in community with other Black women. Number 3, in that community of Black women, they are going to care for you and love on you, but they also can hold you accountable in only a way that another Black woman can. And number 4, after you have made meaning from your experience in community, then it is your duty, if you will, to either show up in your more informed, grounded identity, or to put out work into the world so that another Black woman can see herself reflected. Those are my 4 things. Once you're clear on your framework, then you want to go to your data. I like to take the approach, especially when it's a dissertation, it's your first time, and you just have so much data and you don't even know what to do with it. I like to do the thing where I take, let's just say you did interviews, for instance, each transcript, and I am filtering it through those 4 categories of my framework. Put a 1 in the chat if you're following me, if I didn't lose you with this framework, right? Because I told you I have 4 big buckets in my framework. So I would read through my transcript and I would say, oh, this chunk of words or that one thing that person said seems like it's interesting, and it relates to them seeing their lived experience as fact, as like it's real data. So I'm going to categorize it that way. So I would go through all of my transcripts and putting them and seeing which of those 4 buckets it fits in. It might fit in 1, it might fit in 3, it may fit in none. You have a potpourri sort of like code, like a hot spot or a hot top. Like, I don't know what to do with this, but it sounds good. And I would just make sure it's in one of those buckets. I would do that through all the transcripts. After I do that, I'm like, okay, now I got these 4 things related to my theory, and this 5th thing that's like a miscellaneous bucket. I'm going to take it bucket by bucket, and then I'm going to see what is showing up here, right? Because you put all these like codes in this one bucket, you want to see, okay, underneath the bucket of community is care, like what are the other things, the main ideas that are coming up? So you're going to read through each of those codes or excerpts, and you're going to try to like categorize them in many categories. And you will keep doing that until you get to a solid like 3 or 5 like main ideas per bucket. If you do this, you have coded, you have at least done 2 to 3 rounds of coding of your data, and you are very clear on what your data is revealing. But that's not it. In order to know what to put into your findings chapter, after you're sitting there with all of your buckets, you want to ask yourself, okay, which ones most apply to my purpose of this research and my research questions? What I said I was going to do and why I said I was going to do it. Which one of these apply? Here's the thing, y'all. Not everyone's going to apply, or you're not going to have room for every finding that you have from the analysis. Analysis is this one process. Writing up your final chapters is a whole other process, right? So we're going to do the analysis to see what is revealed in the data, but what you include in your actual chapter is the things that most respond to your questions and your purpose. So let me know if that helps. Some final things I want to say about analysis is every time that you review a transcript or you have an analysis section, you want to do memoing. You want to pull up either a document. I would not keep a physical journal just because you want to be able to look back on these notes, and it may be harder. If you are a person who is better with pen and paper, then I would say finding a spot to like a spot in your week to take pictures of your journal and upload them electronically so that you can still search it and review it. Now with all these tools, AI and whatnot, you can search images, but we need to have the image. And now I just forgot what I was about to say. Oh, and you want to memo after every analysis session. You can also record yourself on your phone. I'm a big person who's like, I just want to talk into my voice notes app. I don't have time to be typing and rapping. I got too much to say. Any advice on scoping review? If this is about the literature review, Denis, tell me what your name or how I pronounce your name, because I don't want to butcher it. If this is about the literature review, what I would say is let's back up. And y'all, please don't let me go longer than 4:50 because I have to get to the finish your dissertation call. Okay, so let's back up to say the literature review, the purpose of it is to give context to your study. A literature review is where you present your full argument in detail of what the problem is, why it matters, and why this is even an issue. Like your literature review is the justification of your study. I am mainly talking to qual and mixed methods people. I can make the same argument for quant folks, but y'all have a different, there's a different orientation is the word I'll use when it comes to quant, because quant, you have to do all of your thinking through what are my variables, how am I measuring it, and have a general idea of like the path you're going down before you even collect 1 ounce of data, versus a more like qual heavy mixed methods or a qualitative project. It's more exploratory where you're like, these are my guardrails of what I'm interested in and what I'm trying to find, but I won't be able to write up anything until I know the data says. We could talk about that another time, but I just wanted to say that. So if you are approaching this literature review, we need to know why should we care about your study? What I ask students to do is, number 1, with the literature review, you need to just tell us what is the problem. You did mention it, in your introduction chapter, but there was only so many pages and so much room. You need to clearly state, what is the problem? What's the tension? What's the rub? When people are asking you, what's the gap? It's the problem. What is the problem? Describe the problem for a 5-year-old in such general terms. Once we have the problem, now you want to tell us, okay, but like, why is it a problem? And are you the first person to ever think about this problem? So a great way to think about this is, what is currently being done to address it? My favorite question, and y'all listen, no shade, if you're new to me, welcome. A question I like to ask is, what would the old white men of your field say is the solution? This ain't about shade. It's just that if we're going to go back into theory and we're going to go back to the beginning of our fields, who wrote the research? The white men. Okay, so what did the old white men, if you were in a room with them, what would they say is the solution? Let me try to give an example. So my dissertation study was on Black women and doctoral programs, like their sense of belonging. The old white men of my field would say, well, they just need to be around other people. They need a mentor, right? That's what the old white men would say. If they just had a mentor, everything would be good. So I would write that. It'll be my second section of my literature review. These are all the things that as a field we hold tried and true to say, this is what we should do to solve the problem. But your job is to say, why are these things not working? Why are they ineffective? What are they missing? This is where most students get the literature review wrong. You never criticize or problematize the literature. Why are the solutions that have been offered or proposed not working or implemented? So if we go back to my example, mentoring is not working because the literature says that if a Black woman needs a mentor, she should go find another Black woman. Well, if y'all ain't hiring nor retaining Black women as faculty, what's she supposed to do? It can't work. But you can go find someone else, but it won't be the same because the literature said this is what you need to do. It ain't working. Put a 1 if you're following me. It ain't working. And that is what I said in my literature review. It ain't working because this is great. And it might work for these other groups. But for Black women, it ain't working. So we need something else. The next section of your literature review is where you then go into, okay, who are you centering in this research? Who are the people who have the problem that you are focused on? Why is this problem, or how is this problem unique to this particular group? So if I go to my example, okay, Black women are not the first ones to come into a doctoral program. They're not the only ones struggling with retention. So what is the special problem here? It's like, well, at the time of me doing the study, and probably still so till today, like it's one of the fastest groups enrolling in doctoral programs, yet these retention rates, they're not moving. Ain't nothing happening. You don't think that's a little strange? That's how I wrote it. It's a little strange that clearly like recruitment efforts are working, but we still in the same numbers. And the literature, the most recent literature says they are engaging in mentoring. It's just not, something's wrong. Something's not happening. The rates haven't changed. That was my whole justification. So I wrote that section. The last section of your literature review then is you presenting, well, what are you thinking that we should do different, or what is the data that you need? So what I said is we probably should just talk to them and number one, see what are they actually doing? What's helping them? Because there are folks who are making it through the program, but also we probably should, because there's not many mentoring, we should simulate mentoring relationships, put them all in a group over a period of time and see how that impacts them, which is why I did sister circle methodology. We could talk about methods. Maybe I'll do that later next week. But I hope that makes sense. So you start off with the wide topic or the problem, like what is the problem? Then you tell us why this problem like matters or why should we care? You tell us what has been done about this problem and why is that not working? Why is it ineffective? And what are you suggesting that we do? And then you want to end off this literature review with any relevant theories that help support your approach. Thank you so much. That was perfect. Let me know if you have any more questions. I will be happy to answer them after I get off of the FYD call. I hope that literature review breakdown was helpful. I have plenty of videos on YouTube as well as on Instagram. You can scroll through. I've done literature review so much, but I could do another one if you want me to. Okay, y'all, I'm gonna go. I hope y'all have a beautiful Sunday evening, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye, y'all.